Hi, my name is Christy Ferner, and I am in the class Accounting 6320, Cost Accounting, with Dr. Christensen at SUU, Southern Utah University. I will be giving a presentation on my research paper topic, Customer Profitability Analysis. I have several references that I will be referring, as well as information from my own experience and knowledge, as well as just common knowledge. I have included my references for all the articles that I did research and reference on my paper in the last slide of this presentation. So as an introduction, I'm going to talk about why customers are important. The whole basis of the customer profitability analysis, or CPA, is because customers are important. They are the purpose of businesses. The sole purpose of business is to make money. In order for businesses to make money, they must have customers that produce profit and buy their product or purchase their services. So they are essential to businesses existing and growing. Understanding of customer profitability is not extremely common for a lot of business owners, especially smaller business owners. They look at the financial statements and just see the large amount of revenue and all the expenses, and typically when they just do a little bit of math in their head and see that the revenue of a customer brought X amount in, they maybe had some product costs or some development costs, they subtract that off and they think that is their actual profitability, whereas there's a whole bunch of other costs that go into it. There's overhead costs that maybe need to be attributed to customers. There's a whole bunch of different costs that really needed to be allocated to customers so that business owners and stakeholders can really get a good value of what the profits are of the customers. And this can get kind of complicated, kind of stressful maybe for businesses to have to break this out. However, it is crucial because that way business owners can really look at the individual customers and know exactly what their costs are and their profits are. And I think people will be surprised as they do these analysis and really break down the true costs, not just the costs that you maybe think. They'll be surprised at maybe some of the customers won't be as profitable as they thought. Maybe some customers will take a loss. They won't be profitable at all. It's just really good information for sales teams and businesses so that they can determine what customers need to stay and go and what customers need a little bit more emphasis on. So the customer profitability analysis model has been developed to help these business owners or these business departments, people have the information that they need on customer profitability. It's a great reporting model, and it's really not that complicated once you do the research and put the information in, but that is the most complicated thing. So that is what I'll be going over in my paper this afternoon. First of all, the steps for developing a CPA model. So there were 6 steps suggested by one of the authors, the set of authors, in the article, The Implementation of Customer Profitability Analysis. And I went through the 6 different steps. They were I felt that they were very important to developing this model, and you really couldn't miss one step and have a successful model. So I've kind of based my paper based on some of their principles, along with putting in some other information that I've obtained through working and through classes, as well as other articles and things I have read. So the first step is to find the active customers. So lots of times there's this big database of customers, and businesses just keep inputting new customers as they come, but they never get subtracted. So really this database needs to be gone through and determine what customers really are applicable. There's going to be customers that haven't made purchases or you haven't even heard from in years or a long period of time. There's going to be other customers that you just know are no longer going to be doing business with you. You need to be able to subtract those off to get a more accurate representation of the customers that really do produce profit for your business, or maybe they don't. We'll see. We also need to determine what the goals of the CPA model are. Are there any customers that maybe were set up incorrectly, not really customers, that need to be taken out. Or maybe there's some corporate type customers that you don't want to include in the analysis, or some interrelated entities that you don't want to include in your model as well. So you really need to go through those customers, determine which customers are active, and so you really get a good display of correct material. So the second step, back to step one, after you decide on those customers, you need to break out customer segments. You need to break them out. Lots of times companies already have these. They're just business type segments maybe. Lots of times they're already broken out as locations, type, size. Maybe you have a retail company and you're looking at small retail companies and large retail companies, or there's a whole bunch of different ways that businesses break out their customers or segment their customers. And you need to do the same thing for the CPA model. This will allow you to pull reports better and to get information better. And you'll be able to see, based on those segments, where the profit is, and make judgments about where you maybe should increase things or put more emphasis on. So that is very helpful in the profit analysis. So the second step is to actually design the model. You're not actually going to calculate it yet, but you're going to design it. You're going to start looking through your company, look at your operations, see what activities your business does. Break out into different departments maybe, or just break out the activities that go from getting the customer all the way to getting the product or the sales out the door to the customer. So some examples are, you may want to, your activities may be the distributing or the warehousing of it. Maybe the billing department has a big portion of costs or just costs in it. You'll have sales, you'll have merchandising maybe. So figure out what those activities are in your business. Business owners typically know these already because they have their CMR is probably based off of that. They probably have other reporting and things that they do like that as well. So the next thing is you need to determine the cost drivers for those activities. So basically the cost drivers are what resources of the companies is being used for those activities, or in what ways are those activities measured. Cost drivers maybe sound like they're financial aspects of it, but not necessarily. Sometimes it could be maybe the weight or the units of something. It could be a lot of different things. And so you just need to determine maybe this is a better way to look at it. When you're allocating costs, how are you going to allocate it? What kind of calculations do you need? Are you going to need to look at the weight and take a ratio of total weight between different products, or do you need to maybe distribute it by dollar amounts? Those cost drivers will help you in the cost allocation, which is next. So next you're going to determine the costs. You're going to go through all of the costs, go through the P&L, and go directly down and look at every single cost and ask yourself, would this cost be necessary if the product or service was discontinued or did not exist? So there's going to be a lot of them. They're going to be weird ones. Some of your marketing things you're going to want to split out to the customers. There's going to be overhead things that really need to go out to the customers that you wouldn't think. They're all the costs that would be involved to get the customer the service out the door. If it's not required, maybe some lunches aren't required, or you decide you don't want to do certain employee development. If you don't want to include some of those costs, that's fine, but you'll just go through and determine which ones really aren't necessary and which ones really do apply to the products. And then once you've determined for the activities what costs belong to them, you're going to then break the customers in the activities. You're going to break those costs out, and that's when it becomes maybe a little bit more challenging. Sometimes you'll get invoices from vendors where it will just be just one amount. services provided for June, or you'll have one big purchase, and it won't really tell you what customer it really applies to. So it's kind of going to be up to the business how they want to handle it. They may be able to obtain that information. They may be able to go back to their vendors, inquire some questions. They may just know. They may have to develop a ratio or some sort of calculation to determine how things need to be split up to each customer. And each business is going to be different and is going to have to figure out the best way. And that's going to be kind of something that you're going to try and maybe adjust. You'll have to kind of get a feel for how your calculations are working and if they really are accurate. So the next step is 3. You're going to calculate the profitability. You're going to put all of the information you obtained. You're going to be obtaining tons of different information because you're calculating all these costs. You're going to be using hours. You're going to be using units of measurement. You're going to be using weights. You're going to be using dollar amounts. You're going to have all of this new data that you've gone out and obtained to get some of the costs figured out and to figure out the cost drivers. So you're going to put all of that software and all of that data into a software. And there's a lot of different softwares. I've never actually used any of them, but when I Googled it, there was a lot that came up. But it can be as simple as Excel, or you could go to a more complicated software. And it looks like some of the more complicated softwares are really quite cool. You can input the data. It's going to help you calculate maybe some of those cost allocations. So it may be something you want to think about as far as how much you want to spend on the software. And then step 4 is you're going to get all these, you've done the calculation, you're going to get your results. You're going to want to interpret them. First of all, you might not think that they're right. You might want to double check, make sure your calculations really do make sense. And I'm sure the first time you're doing this, you're going to have to double check. You know your business. So you want to evaluate, make sure it does make sense and they are correct. And then once you have a good sense of correctness and accuracy on that, interpret the results. I think businesses will probably be surprised at the results. One of the authors in here, in the articles that I've read, said 20% of customers are responsible for 225% of profits when activity-based cost is used. Another study found that up to 40% of companies' revenues can, in fact, be derived from unprofitable customers that are fully costed. So it will be kind of interesting to see and surprising to see what customers are eating up all of the costs. You may have some bigger customers that you think are bringing in a ton of revenue and you're so thankful that you have them and you feel like they're so essential to your business, but you may not have realized that there is so much overhead that you didn't consider. There are so many little pieces of cost. There are so many hours that salesmen are spending in their offices. There's so many different materials that are purchased that maybe you didn't know about. So some of your client or customers you may thought were really profitable, and you might find out that they aren't as profitable as you thought. Or maybe you have customers that are actually costing you money, and you maybe need to look at. There's a lot of analysis that can go on. It'll help you determine maybe what activities you could make adjustments on, which are more profitable than others. The thing I liked a little bit was the segments, the customer segments. You can go in and see what industries are more profit producing for you, and then you can do analysis and make goals based on that. So number 5, I kind of talked a little bit about 5 and 6 as I discussed 4, but number 5 is the tune strategies and programs. So the model gave you all of this information. Now it is the business's responsibility to take that information and determine what implementations they're going to make, what strategies they need to come up with. Do they want to implement some new incentives to bring profits up in a certain area, or are you going to change your strategy and work on one specific industry instead of focusing on 2? Or it'll give you some good guidance and guidelines on how to maybe switch some of your strategies, or what strategies you have are correct, and maybe you just need to push a little harder, or it'll be really helpful for just trying to figure out your goals and how to proceed to become a better company. And then the next one is establishing an infrastructure. You've just obtained all of this information, all this new information. You've put it into your module. You need to go through and see what changes your business needs to make so that you can apply this. You probably got some new numbers, figures, calculations that that your accountants maybe need to update. They probably have some ratios they've been using that are probably now outdated now that you've done research and got more information. So you'll want that there. The sales department may need to implement some additional tracking of maybe hours or sales calls or different things that will allow the CPA, the customer profitability analysis, to continue successfully. Maybe you haven't been tracking some numbers as well as you maybe think you should have now that you've done the CPA, and maybe those numbers will help to give you better information in the future. Okay, so we just went through how you're going to set up the model, the CPA model, what you're going to do, the steps of it, the calculations, you're going to evaluate it, you're going to be excited about it, you're going to start it in your company, and it's going to be awesome. It sounds like an awesome product. So I wanted to go over some of the benefits, some of the reasons why customers really should do it, other than the fact that you probably should understand where your profits are. But there are some really good reasons why you should know per customer what the profits are. So the first thing I went through was to evaluate unprofitable customers. I think business owners may be surprised about the small amount of profit that they make on some customers. Maybe this is because of discounts that they're offering. Maybe it's because too many costs are being allocated, whatever reason it is, or maybe even they know what reason it is and they're aware and are being unprofitable for a reason. But you want to look at some of those customers, or all of them that are unprofitable or low profit, that is, and determine, is there any of them that you need to end your relationship with? Is it not worth your time, your effort to keep working with them? Are they continuing to lose you money? Maybe they're not paying you. This is a good time to go through that active customer list and evaluate A, B, and C clients and which ones are really, really worth it. But you got to be kind of careful. There was a lot of articles that gave some really good advice on being careful that financial measurement isn't always the best measurement in determining the value of customers. One of the authors suggested that the customer influence and knowledge is more important than the financial. The influence and knowledge is maybe the customer has a big influence in the industry that you're really working hard to be in, and you really want to get in good and get a good reputation with him because you know that it's going to help your business. Or maybe you have a customer that's unprofitable that maybe is looking like it's going to grow. It just bought another, it's investing, you can tell it's growing, it's going to be making more purchases, which is going to make you more money, so you are okay with maybe not making very much profit or none at all because you know that you're going to get it on the back end. Another thing you may want to look at is if you do and stop working with them, will it hurt your reputation? Is it going to have any bad recourses on your stakeholders, or are there any relationships there that maybe you need to maintain just for the sake of relationships? There was one more. Well, that's a few of them, and you just need to be really careful because you never know what profits could be in the future, and they could change. So you want to be really careful in how you analyze this. So I thought of a couple questions that may be helpful as you're going through this list. First of all, what other customers may be lost? The business world is all about referrals. Life is becoming all about referrals. If one of your big customers starts going to one of the other people doing your same, one of your competitors, is it going to drive other people in the industry to go to them as well? Or maybe this customer is giving you a lot of referrals, and now that they're not with you, they're not going to keep referring. So you need to look and see what the impact is. Are you going to lose any other customers? Are you going to miss out on potential customers because of ending the relationship? What you know about customers and what may lead to increased sales. I kind of talked about that already. And then what implications could this cause for business image and to the stakeholders. So really important that businesses really analyze this and make sure that they are comfortable completely with dissolving the relationship of the unprofitable customer. Okay, the next benefit is this CPA model will help with customer retention and relationships extremely. Kind of like I just talked about, is you're going to have a whole bunch of customers that are all over the place. Some are going to be more profitable than others. Some are not going to have any profit at all. Maybe some are extremely profitable. You really need to go through those and determine which customers are the most valuable or the most essential to your business. They may not all necessarily be the ones with the highest amount of profit. They may be, though. And you really want to look at them and determine, if I lost you, would it be that big of a deal? And make sure that you are working on those customers the most, that you're really trying to get those customers to continue ordering and continue asking for your service. There was a quote by one of the articles that I read that says it has been estimated an increase in retention rates as little as 5% can lead to increase of between 25 and 95% net value from a wide range of industries. So you see right there in the citations right there, and you can see the full reference in the back. 25 to 95% is huge. So this is actually an enormous responsibility of the sales team, the marketing team, the managing team, whoever, to make sure that they are extremely focused on customer retention and that they know what customers need to be retained. Another benefit is this analysis lets them know which customers they need to spend more time with. There's going to be some big players, big revenues, big profitabilities, and the sales team, marketing team really need to know which companies to focus on, maybe which ones to wine and dine more. There's going to be some customers that they'll notice have decreased in their purchases or providing services, so the sales team probably wants to attack them and get them back up in the customer retention, get their retention higher, get them reordering more often, focus on them so that you don't lose them as a customer. But this is also helpful in building new relationships and potential customers. So if you look at the analysis and you see maybe the different industries and you notice that some of your customers in certain industries are way profitable. So say like you have a healthcare industry and it is way more profitable than your restaurant industry. You're probably going to want to have more focus maybe or more salespeople on that industry, the healthcare industry, because it's very profitable. You may want to go out and prospect for clients in that industry more than you want to in some of your smaller industries. And you may find some of your smaller industries are going away or they're taking up too much of your time and you're not making money on, so you need to switch your motivation and your strategies so that you're making sure you are really retaining relationships of the customers that are going to have a long-term effect on profitability. Another benefit, well, and this kind of encompasses everything, but the decision-making business strategies. As I talked about in the beginning, a lot of business owners have no idea what kind of income their customers really bring in. They kind of have an idea, they maybe have it figured out, maybe they don't even care, but a lot of the times it's just not accurate. And so this model will help them to have accurate information. They will know exactly what the costs are. They can make cost adjustments. Maybe they have a base price that they're now realizing that is really not encompassing enough of the actual cost. They need to bump that up. It'll help them in making business decisions on maybe merging with another company. They'll have a better feel of what the customers are out there. There's a lot of decisions business owners have to make that costs have so much to do with, and this will be really beneficial to them. It'll also help them understand their customer more in the industries they're in and what kind of products or services that they're looking for or are benefiting from the most. It will help in determining how you're going to achieve your goals and your strategies. You have these strategies, and you now have numbers to go with them. Maybe you find that a certain industry is not up to goal. So maybe you want to come up with some business incentives to help your employees focus on that more, or maybe you realize this department needs motivation and you have some bonus plans. It will just help you come up with some good ways to obtain your goals and really get your company to grow in the way that you have planned. The next thing is it's going to make your financial and your cost accounting more complete and accurate. You have actual accurate data. You maybe had a good estimate before, but you did all this research. And so now you actually have a really, really good basis for all of your numbers and all of your calculations as you're preparing your financials and all these cost analysis reports. So in the long run, you not only have accurate numbers, but that's going to increase stakeholder trust. And the last thing I thought of as far as the benefit of the model as far as decision making and business strategy was forecasting. You now have some great information. It's extremely accurate and reliable. And now you can use it for forecasting and getting accurate numbers that way. You can also prepare a model completely on forecasting. It'll be a lot more complicated because you have to use estimated numbers. Maybe you'll have to look at potential profit or potential clients that you're planning on bringing in. That would be a whole nother analysis and it'd be a lot more complicated, so I didn't really cover it much. But for forecasting, I think this system is really helpful for companies that are keeping track of these type of costs. So just to conclude, this is the customer analysis system model. It shows how revenues and costs are allocated to businesses by looking at the operations and the customers and the activities. It helps them in making decisions and understanding where their income is going, why companies aren't as profitable as they want to be. It'll help them understand what costs are maybe a little excessive and they maybe need to do away with. But I hope it's understood that the customers are extremely important to the business. They're basically the bread and butter. Without the customers, the business doesn't exist. So it's important that customers or businesses really take this seriously and understand the costs that their clients are costing them and their profitability. So I went through the 6 steps. The 6 steps from the implementation of customer profitability analysis. They're not exclusive to that analysis. However, I did reference them because I did use some of their information and their thoughts and insights on that. We went through the six steps, which I found that they were all pretty important. We went through how to choose your customers for it and how to allocate the costs out and to do the different activity allocation, and then underneath that to allocate to all of the customers and the benefits of that. And then the 3rd step was to put all the data in, do the calculation, and then once the calculation is, you're happy with it, you feel like it's accurate, you can start really looking at it and trying to figure out what processes you need to change and what will need to happen to make your company be more profitable. And then you can implement those changes and everything else. And as far as the benefits go, I talked about evaluating the profitable and non-profitable customers and the importance of being careful to not lose a relationship with a non-profitable customer. I talked about client retention and relationships and the importance of that, and the decision-making business strategies. That is the main focal point of this entire model. So just to conclude, the CPA model I think is crucial for businesses to truly understand the profitability of the customer. Customers are the bread and butter, and it is important that the customers understand, or the businesses, understand which customers are their big players and that they're focusing on the right segments and the right customers. Because if they are focused on the wrong ones, their business will not prosper and grow in the way that they want it to. So there is the customer profitability analysis.